The God of War series is mainly about unique concepts rather than mythological accuracy. Most of the stuff never occurred in any myth story. Most of it was completely made up for the game, yet fans will argue as if it's entirely accurate. Just going to make a list of things here that are exclusive to God of War. The Blade of Olympus never existed in any myth story, and was only created for the game. The fear form for Zeus was never in any myth story and was only created for the game. Same goes for Poseidon's giant water form, Hades' hook claws, or Hercules' Nemenian cestus. The same goes for the Thanatos dragon form and Alecto's kraken form, just to name a few. God of War is one of the most inaccurate myth adaptations, and most of its characters are just OCs named after myth characters rather than being accurate in and of itself. Zeus in God of War has no lightning weapons, created by the Cyclopes or with the help of Hephaestus. Instead, all of his lightning is magically conjured. In such that way, the Disney Hercules and the MCU movies are more accurate, because they gave him his lightning bolt weapon. You know what else has more mythologically accurate weapons? Blood of Zeus and Record of Ragnarok. A bident for Hades, just like in myth. I wonder if there's a highly inaccurate game that would change that to a hook chain instead. And you know what else is the funniest thing? Is that even after I read out my sort of script here, and I kind of detailed my point, highlighting how they invented various weapons for the characters that weren't originally in the myth, and are contradicted by the myth, there are still fans who will argue very explicitly and very directly that no, it's totally accurate. You're just being nitpicker. You're just nitpicking at small things. It's not a small thing in the context of the game story. Fear Zeus is the last form of Zeus and the final penultimate boss in the whole series. Like, it's the last fight. And it's a toolkit for one of the main antagonists in the game. And the Blade of Olympus is a key weapon Kratos uses to defeat Kronos. The Blade of Olympus is what ended the Titan War in God of War. The Blade of Olympus literally reappears in Valhalla. It's not a minor element in this story. But fans will argue that this shit is accurate, and if you dare disagree, you're somehow a hater. It's like with Boruto fans. The whole point is just calling you a meanie bad guy because you dislike them. They'll say you're stuck in Shippuden if you disagree. You can highlight various instances in the story which is inconsistent with what they believe. So they'll say Momoshiki can just solo everyone in Shippuden at once, and then you'll point out, no, that doesn't make sense because Momoshiki was struggling with Kage. Well, that's an outlier. Well, Kenshiki, his subordinate slash adopted father, kind of weird, how it's established, barely, because Boruto doesn't have lighting, but it's inconsistent with that because you're making a claim that he can do this and do all this, but he can't even beat Kage. And then Kenshiki, like I mentioned before, also struggled with Kage, which was what I was getting at. You can't say it's inconsistent or an outlier if Kenshiki is also struggling. Like, both parties of this faction, like, we have a faction of Otsutsuki that appear on Earth, Momoshiki, Kenshiki, and Urashiki. They come and appear on Earth, and two of them who appear in the first, major arc in Boruto. Actually, I think there's a couple arcs before that, but the Boruto movie arc, the one that adapts that arc, that is very consistently everyone's Kage level. Like, there's literally five. Every Kage does something. You can't say that's an outlier. Like, Chojuro managed to seal Kenshiki. He managed to hit him with the needles. Kuroshichi managed to hit him, knock him far, and seal him with the clay. Gawa managed to block Fuse Momoshiki's punch. Dalwi chased Momoshiki away and hit him with the blade. Anyways, I'm getting off topic, but Boruto fans will pretty much dismiss any and all evidence and say you're stuck in Shippuden and you're just a fan of shit turden if you disagree. Yeah, they hate Naruto, by the way, but they'll act like they don't when you attack them on that point. And just to get back on God of War for a second, I know I got off topic, but this is the same game series which reinvented Cerberus. You know, the guard dog of hell, the singular individual character, the son of Typhon from the myth, into a species of dogs which sometimes or sometimes don't have free heads. In the game, they're called Cerberi. They literally reinvented the Cerberus character into a species. They Pokemonified Cerberus, and they're trying to fucking tell me that the game is accurate and scales to the myth, as if it is one with the myth. These people don't know about the myth. I know about the myth, which is why it's annoying when they claim that. They'll also claim that, oh, you know, in the myth, in the games, Zeus scales to Uranus because he defeated Kronos and killed him. You know, the cycle. But it's like, no. It doesn't work like that. Because Kronos had to jump Uranus with 5 people, as according to the new Sons of Sparta game. And even before that, pre-Sons of Sparta, there was no indication they even fought. If anything, all the info contradicted it. God of War scaling is just based on nothing, and it assumes connections from myths that aren't even accurate. Like, there was no primordial war. There was no civil war of the primordials, where their dead bodies became the earth, the ocean, and the universe itself. That wasn't a thing in the myth. The game made that up. Most of the concepts in the game are made up for the game. Like I said, the Cerberei. Rather than being a single individual character with relationships to other characters, it is instead a collection of individual characters within a species. As another example of concepts unique to God of War, think of the Pandora's Temple. Instead of killing his father, chopping him up in pieces, throwing him into Tartarus, like in the myth, what happens in God of War is that Zeus punishes him by putting a temple on his back, a temple which is called Pandora's Temple, made up for the game like most other things, and he walks in the desert of Lost Souls, which doesn't exist in the myth either, where the sand blows and tears apart his flesh as he walks forever in the desert. I love it, you know, it's just entirely made up for the myth, for the game, with no basis on the myth. Like, the Desert of Lost Souls isn't in the myth, the story of Kronos crawling on all fours in the desert with Pandora's Temple on his back, that was never in the myth. None of that was in the myth. All made up for the game.